Now
They didn't keep their people. They didn't live there for longer time, a few days, and then
a transit camp of
yes,
sorts.
Transit camp, right.
So you were liberated, as it were, by the Russians.
Yes.
And then what happened?
Worse than ever. Please. That's when the trouble started. As I said, the first one Russian came in with a rifle. Then the whole lot came in at night. They went against Vienna. And they did everything that they're not supposed to do. Robbing, raping. And my father, first of all, I was hidden under the bed. Then later on they were sitting on me, covered the blanket to hide me, because it didn't help to put on a kerchief to cover your face, because this was young. Okay, the Russians called it babushka, the wearing the kerchief like that. And they could see the young faces. It didn't help, so they were hiding me. It was 24 hours, the most terrible at Strasshof when the Russians came in. At night they came down to the bunker and they took away the mother, daughter. They brought it back, and then the next, and then it was nightmare. Then they said, go. We asked, we are hungry, we have no food. We said, go, steal, go. Schindlers. That's what they said. And we had to go because that's where the hard artillery, the heavy artillery came against Vienna. As we went out, they were throwing us out. Right then, the Germans came still with the airplane, and they bombed the place because the heavy artillery was there. So as we were moving back, but why did we go? If you let a bunch of cows, they just go, okay? Follow the leader, right? We went. As we were walking back, the Russians wanted to help us to find accommodation which we were afraid to take.
Why?
Because of the raping. And we slept on the side of the road in the open field. One day, a jeep came with two soldiers, and one was a high-ranking and the other was a chauffeur, and the high-ranking officer jumped out, and my father, first of all, they tore the star. You don't need this anymore. And he said, I am a Jew, and took out something from his pocket, who knows what. I am carrying my prayer book here, and that's why I am saved. And my father said, would you please give us a paper that we can ask for help from the army? He turned around and said to one of the mother, how many children you have? She said 3. They all the same? No. Stalin has so many children, they all different. Jumped on the jeep and bye. And that was it.
And no help?
No. Stalin had lots of children also. They were all different.
So the Russians coming in was the worst part of your experience?
The worst. Don't forget, this time I am 18 already, and maybe I wasn't as childish as I was before. Naive, should I say. Because we were very naive. Grown up, but naive.
How long did the business with the Russians last?
Till I got to Budapest, the 1st of May.
How did you get to Budapest?
On a train, first to Bratislava, where we were stationed in a house, because we were the first. Then after troops were coming from Austria and Czechoslovakia. Auschwitz were not ready yet.
Mm-hmm.
And at Bratislava I got the repatriation number, and they said cattle car again, but not as crowded when we left, and that's how we got back.
So when you arrived in Budapest?
At 1st of May, the soldiers were drunk as skunk, and we had to duck. They took off my father from the train to work, but he jumped off on the side of the train and he came back in Budapest, so he wasn't taken to Russia. Because everybody who was taken to work ended up in Russia.
Budapest had been occupied by the Russians?
Yes. Oh yes, the whole Hungary.
Yes. And how long did you stay in Budapest after you got there?
I have no idea. The end of the war was the 7th of May.
May 8th was the official end. Yes.
I was already in Baja, so.
And you remained in Hungary?
Till 1956.
Till 56.
Not in Baja all the time. Till 1950, till Baja.
Your father resumed his work as a journalist?
Yes.
In the same newspaper?
No. A communist newspaper.
Oh, communist newspaper. And in 56 you came to Canada? Directly?
No. A year and a half in Austria. The hardest thing was for me to say in Austria, thank you, to them. Because that's where actually they were worse than the other side of the border. And the Hungarians were worse too, the civilians. And
you told us when we met before a story about soap. Perhaps you could tell us something about
Yes.
the video.
In Felsberg, where I was working, as I told you, we got the raw material for cooking, and our people cooked, and we got supply. Soap. We got from paper, I believe, they made sack. And we made pants from that, the sacks, the old sacks. It was very warm, actually. It's paper, it's very warm. And the soap that we used, it was like a gray, sandpapery, very, very rough. And that's what we used for hygiene. When we came back, when we got to Bratislava, that's when we learned about the cremation, the ashes. And they used that, the ash and the ashes, to make soap. It's not only for us, but I think in whole Germany they used it. That was the fare.
Have you ever told some of your experiences to your family?
No. I don't know. Maybe I wanted to forget. I never mentioned. We never spoke about. My husband's parents perished. The mother and grandmother in Auschwitz. The father was working, and in the end of 1944 he was shot to death and then cremated. We never spoke about it. Probably we wanted to forget. As we get older, now if I come together with my friends, we're starting with gossip, with ending with Auschwitz. Every time. I can't help it.
Was your husband from the same community as you?
Yes. But he was in the forced labor camp.
And what would have, what prompts you at this point, 50 years later, to be sure that your story is told? What is the motivation
all
for
of a
people?
sudden, about the last 10 years, I should say, everybody's talking. The memory is coming back. It's a very important part of our life. And 50 years this year, 50 years ago, it's a tremendous amount of time. And I'm still here. Somebody has to die. I'm the last generation.
In your family?
Also almost. There is not many younger than me people who are still alive, who are survivors. I don't think so. Yes, but not many who survived. I was 17. I think, okay, maybe some 15 years old, but not many survived.
Do you have an explanation as to how you were able to survive? Or is it circumstances of having been in Hungary?
How I am survived?
How you survived because of the country you were in, because of the circumstances?
No. Because they were bombing the train, and we couldn't go straight to Auschwitz. We were the detour. It was a freak exit.
So had they not bombed the train,
no,
the train would have continued?
We were destined to Auschwitz. Now, knowing. Then I didn't know.
Then you didn't, you had no idea.
There was not even mentioned the name of Auschwitz. I never heard about it.
I should pass some questions on to you because I think I've come to the end of my questions.
Can we stop the tape for a minute? You mentioned that your father was with you.
Yes.
When you went to Strasshof and when you went to...
My mother also.
Your family remained together.
Yes.
So your father never went to a working battalion?
No.
And you had mentioned before that your father was in the Hungarian army.
Yes, at the First World War, 4 years.
Okay, and that he then worked in... He was in the army the first 4 years, and he was never separated from you. No. So that the family went from the transit camp to the state.
And came home together, went back together to home.
That's an unusual circumstance.
Very. Not many. The three of us, yes. It happened because when the cattle car was opened and we got out, there were the Wiener Judenrat came to visit us, bring us food, and they opened the water right there and then. And one of the German soldiers, and they were looking for people to work. First of all, they didn't say, you work. I said, who wants to go to work? And then my father was hesitating that because his mother, my mother, the grandmothers were in the train, my cousin with her little girl, 6-year-old girl, and he was hesitating what to do. So this soldiers, elderly person, came to him and said, what are you hesitating for? Said, I don't know what to do because my mother is at the train and what should I do? He said, you have a child or children? I said, yes, I have a daughter. So look forward and don't look back. I never understood. Now I do understand. But then I just didn't understand. How could you? But I was 17. The scale. I was pulling the scale because I was young. My mother was 37. My father was 47. The three of us were strong, not strong, but
Relatively so.
working. Okay? They saw potential. These three people can work. They are young. So that's how it happened.
Were other people like in your town in the
Yes.
same position where
Yes.
families remained?
Not everywhere. The husband was home. At the Russian front, with the forced labor camp, with the army, working for the army. The men were taken away. The men who were picked up in March 19th, they were on the train. No wife, maybe, yes, maybe no. They were taken to Auschwitz. My father stayed home all the time in Baya. He wasn't picked up by the Germans. He was free. I remember when they picked up the men at the 19th of March, my mother aunt ran over. Her husband was picked up. He was the one who was later in the synagogue as a tailor. But he was taken away first. And she ran over at night. You were not allowed to go at night. She came over and said to my husband, my husband is taken. So my father got up from the bed, got dressed, and is going to the police. He knew the police chief, he knew everybody. I am going to fix it. So he went at night on the street, and the police who he know came, and he asked, where are you going? He said, my uncle was picked up. Why? He said, I give you advice. Go home and go to bed. And you are sick and you don't move. But very few was left from the men.
Was your family the only family that stayed entirely together in your town throughout the war?
I don't know.
Maybe a few others?
Mother and daughter, then they came back, but as an entity.
That's what I mean, you know.
As husband, mother, father, mother, and child, I don't know. I don't think so.
You also mentioned that even in 44, you didn't know of Auschwitz.
No. Nobody.
But your father was a journalist.
Beg your pardon?
Your father was a journalist.
Yes.
Wouldn't that have been news?
He wasn't working as a journalist since 41 when they throw him out of that beautiful. He went to work, manual work, in a textile factory where the workers were communist. But they laughed their head off that the Jew carrying bales of heavy material on his back, he had beautiful nails, strong, beautiful nails. I didn't inherit it. It was to the bone, every finger, bleeding every night. But they were laughing at him. Aha, look at the Jew. Good for him. They didn't help. They were later the communists who took over.
In power afterwards, the war.
Yes, the same person. And you couldn't say a word.
Your father was one of the 5 members of the Jewish community.
Yes.
Did they all survive? Did any of them survive other than your father?
No.
He was the only one?
Yeah. 47 years old, young man. My son is 47.
You had another question. We have a bit of information about after the war, what your life was like when you returned to Hungary in the late 40s and early 50s.
I went back to work where I learned to be a hairdresser. When we had to wear the star, the yellow star, I stopped working because public. I had to wear it all the.
When was this that you had to wear the star?
After the 19th of March of 44.
No, I'm talking about after the war was
that's
over
what I
entirely.
said.
Yeah.
So I stopped working and I didn't finish my apprentice year. When I came back in 45, I went back to finish my apprenticeship.
And you became a hairdresser?
I didn't work. No. I finished, I got my diploma, and that was it. Then a year later, I got married. And that year, in 1946, it was an epidemic of marriage. Everybody who came back, no families, they tried to establish a family. My husband had his brother, but nobody. So he was 21, I was 19. Children playing house. We got married.
Your children were born in Hungary?
Yes, 47 and 48.
And was there anti-Semitism after the war?
There is.
The
Never
Hungarian...
died. It never was a question. There was always there, and it never died.
So the Hungarian communists established some of it?
No, there was quietness under the communism because the government, and under the government there was lots of Jewish boys, should I say, my husband's age, who became leader of certain things, and they were afraid that they will be put in jail, which there was lots of people to put in jail. Now there is no holding back. There is no holding back. It's very much alive.
What do you mean by that?
That the party, the Nazi party is alive, thank you.
Oh, you're speaking of the present?
Yes. It was there always, but quiet.
Can I go back to Austria?
Mm-hmm.
You were there a year and a half, and you said that you left without saying thank you.
I was sorry to say thank you. I had to say thank you, but that was my biggest beef.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Beg your pardon?
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, in 1956, my husband, the 2 children, and myself, with my parents' blessing, we left Hungary. The reason was anti-Semitism. The revolution, the so-called revolution, which was nothing of the sort. Okay?
It was unsuccessful.
No. We lived in Szeged because my husband had to live he was a capitalist.
That was Elie Wiesel's
Yeah, he was not allowed to stay in his birthplace. He was in jail and out in 1950. And we went to Szeged, and that's a university town, lots of students, and always the hotbed of everything, the students. When the revolution, so-called revolution, 56 there was a big meeting, and we were living right across the sport complex where there was the field, the sport field, and they came to listen to the speeches, and 2 simple women working in a factory probably, walking underneath my window. Everything is because of the Jews. Everything happening because of the Jews. And I said, this is it. My children won't grow up in this environment. They were 8 and 9 years old. And that was the reason we left Hungary. Then we get to Austria, and a year and a half we were there before we came to Canada. And that's what I said. This is the hardest thing for me. I have to say thank you to the Austrian government.
With your memories of what had happened to you before?
Yes. My husband couldn't understand me because he was not there. And this is always. When you didn't see it, you don't believe it. That's the Holocaust, the question of why don't you talk. If you said so. When I came to Canada, I was working in a Jewish place with people from Europe and with born Montrealers, Jewish. And I said something about during the war, I don't know. And the answer was for one of the person who were born here, oh, we had such a terrible time during the war.
In Montreal?
In Montreal. We couldn't get sliced bread and banana. Then I shut up, and that was it. Why should I talk? This is the reaction. How do they think? Banana? My children didn't even know after the war what is chocolate. When we got to Austria, I said, like a pregnant woman, I said to my husband, 1 orange. Just give me money, 1 orange. And I went to the store, and there was so many different kind of orange. I was standing there like a stupid fool, a grown-up woman with 2 children. And a gentleman came to me, and he tried to speak Hungarian. It turned out he was an English journalist who came to the border interviewing the people who came through. And he said, what is it? I said, I want to buy oranges and I don't know which one. He said, now tell me which one you like. Maybe this. So he bought me 2 oranges. I went home and my children spit it out. They didn't know it was sour.
You have been back to Europe in recent years?
Yes, many times. My father died in '62. I didn't go back between '56 and '62. After '62, when my father was not alive already, I went back to see my mother, and my mother came here to visit me. Yes.
And you are participating in a commemoration?
Oh, yes.
Can you tell us a bit about that?
In Biro, at the garden of the synagogue, there is a memorial with all the names who perished. I have pictures of it. That was put up in 1949. Then when my husband was in jail, and for that memorable afternoon with a guard, they let him come for the inauguration in 1949. That's when the memo, also in the cemetery, the old tombstones, we put on the names who perished.
Did you also mention, unless I heard wrong, that you had either gone back or were going back to a specific ceremony?
Yes, I am going back for the 50th memorial in May the 29th in Baja, 10:30 in the morning. I knew from the Jewish community from Budapest, every big place where a train was leaving with people, they have the memorial on the same day. My day is the 28th of May, which is on a Saturday, so it will be held on the 29th, which is Sunday.
What will be going on there?
Probably from Budapest, the rabbi, because there is no people, no Jewish people in Baja. And who is alive and living in Budapest, I don't know from out of Hungary who will come, but I want to be there.
Why?
For my own satisfaction, and I owe the people who died.
Any other things that we...
No, maybe just the
Yes. I have to
photos.
thank you for
You're
a
welcome.
very powerful story. There was some special form we're supposed to read, but I don't have it in front of me, about ending.